start identifying this as something else. Not to mention that you still have an obvious septal area. If you have a septal area, I wouldn't be looking for globus pallidus. But once you start seeing anterior commissure, now think about that sagittal section. You know that the fornix is coming in like this. You're at the end of that. You're just about to break into the thalamus. Look at the putamen. Putamen is pretty short. So there's a short putamen. That internal capsule kind of stops right about there. There's caudate. That's when I would call this globus pallidus. And that's why this is not, couldn't possibly be septal area. It has to be fornix. For one thing, it's too high. It's too dorsal. This side is better for globus pallidus. Look at that short putamen. So when the putamen is this short, internal capsule kind of stops here. This area here would be globus pallidus. And you can see anterior commissure. Once you can make out a 4-dot pattern, okay, so you can only see 3 really here. There's amygdala, fornix, 3rd ventricle, 4th ventricle, caudate still hanging out. Lateral ventricle. Lateral ventricle on top of the fornix. That's that flat fornix. The fibers, as it goes over the thalamus, it's nice and flat. You saw that picture. Refer to the picture on the dorsal view of the hippocampus. This is a better shot. The fornix fell out, but here's 3rd ventricle, and that would be 3rd ventricle if there was a fornix in there. The area immediately around that would be the periventricular nuclei. We have amygdala on either side, optic fibers on this side. Those optic fibers, when they're down at around 5 and 7 o'clock, they're kind of thickish. As they move up, they thin out. So you just have a sliver of white as it outlines the geniculate. So when you're this, so notice it's starting to move up. It's going to get a little thinner, optic fibers here. This is the beginnings of the lateral geniculate. Identify these fibers. Fimbria. If you see a hippocampus and you see that white kind of extend that way, that's fimbria, the white on the inside of the C. So on here, here's hippocampus solid. There's the fimbria, fibers coming from it. That's the coronal view of the habenula. And that 3rd ventricle is starting to shift up. I mean, this is starting to disappear and it's starting to shift up and transition into the aqueduct. There you can see that transition. You can see this habenula pretty clearly. Hippocampus, hippocampus, solid hippocampus. And then everything falls off, and you see that that's just about the transition between 3rd and aqueduct. Better to see it this way. That's the aqueduct with the central gray, periaqueductal gray around that aqueduct. I mean, Tim has got decent. Where did Tim go? So we go back to Tim. Aren't the coronals coming up? So Tim has got those coronals. I'm not that fond of it. And then he has this outrageous cut through the tips of the hippocampal gyrus. There's amygdala. There's the 4-dot pattern that you don't see in real life. It's not that bright, these dots. There's the fornix, lateral ventricle, 3rd ventricle, hippocampus, caudate rather. And notice that those white fibers of the optic tract are not really white. So you can see the photoshopped 4-dot pattern. That this is kind of grayish. It is grayish. It's not as glistening white as other fibers. I don't know why. Those optic fibers. And of course, I forgot, God bless the question, so name the fibers dorsal to the spin and ventral to the spin. So dorsal would be mammillothalamics, always, has to be. And ventral, the ventral dots are always the columns of the face. So, that's it. Question.
Pulvinar?
Pulvinar should be off the list. Pulvinar is, when you see the geniculates, medial to the geniculates is going to be the pulvinar. Haven't figured out how to ask that without giving it away. There's so much other things to ask, I didn't want to bother with it. So strike pulvinar. No, it's at the end of the thalamus. Once you get to pulvinar, that's it, that's the end.
So what's the cue for the